I said I would do an episode. Um, I don't want to say drunk, but I said I would do an episode with Under the Influence. So that's what I'm going to do. I think it would be fun though if I took a sip every time I say no. Actually, I was going to say take a sip every time I say challenges, but that's a bit too difficult. That's not a good idea. Because I feel like when you're talking about something, of course, you're going to say the title of it. So that's a bit too much. I think what we can do is probably sip when we say Tashi. I'll take one now. Yeah, one word count. I wonder if anybody will be counting while I'm doing it, but probably not. Neither will I. Along the way, it will get lost as well. That's what happens. It will get lost. But anyway, talking about challenges. If you also saw, I did a video on my TikTok account for challenges as well, and I basically just talking about everything. I was talking about the fact that Tashi, that Tashi was a home wrecker, and she came in and ruined, she ruined Patrick and Art's great relationship, which stemmed on tennis. It stemmed on tennis. They were both great tennis players. She came in the picture and then everything just messed up. And it was funny because she even said, oh, I don't want to be a home wrecker in this relationship. I mean, in this situation. That's what she was saying. But then she did become one. Also, I want to mention, there's loads of love triangles, of course, but I kind of want to mention those kind of films that are similar to this one, at least, which is like Y Tu Mama Tambien. Is this the new film that's starring Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal and what's that woman's name again? But the woman from 50 Shades of Grey. I think it's called like The Materialists. So that's basically the three. There might be something else as well. I think there might be something. There might be another film that I'm forgetting, which is kind of a film that, has like three people in a relationship type thing. But it's more like, because of course I know I could go to the route and mention loads of triangles, because obviously that's kind of what I did in my video earlier today. I was saying how I was talking about Vampire Diaries and I was talking about Twilight, and of course those are the most obvious ones, and they're also, I don't know, the triangle. They are the top of the pyramid for triangles anyways, basically. I guess you can also say what else for triangles as well. You've got something like After We Collided. What else? After We Collided, and also To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Even though, how crazy is that? That's what annoyed me about that film, because it felt like they were having the same storyline like each film. It was a fact where like Lara Jean had all these people that she liked. She obviously liked Peter. She ends up with Peter, but she also liked her sister's boyfriend. She also liked this guy she went to school with. Or no, that she went to camp with. Or was that Peter? Sorry, that was losing track of it already. But like, so she was obviously she was liking all of these different people, but it was a thing where like, obviously the main love triangle of the first film is her, Peter, and Josh, basically. But this is what I mean. We don't want to talk about those love triangles. We want to mainly stick to the fact of like Y Tu Mama Tambien and like basically The Materialist. I haven't seen I haven't actually seen either of those films, but obviously I know the premise and I know what the main thing is about. Let's carry on anyways. So yeah, The Materialist. But I don't know, is The Materialist is not out yet. Let me check Materialist release date. Okay, June 13th, so next month. They've already been I saw they've been already doing, they've been doing press. So yeah, and I think what was it that came out of the press that I mainly remember is that Chris Evans is a rom-com geek, or rom-com expert, whatever you want to call it. He's like really good at knowing rom-com films. And I guess when I was watching that video, I knew some of them myself, but I didn't know all of them. He knew them like one after the other. I think he won in the end actually from that video. I wouldn't have won. But I do love rom-coms. I think they're great, basically. I guess Challenges is not classed as a rom-com anyway, is it? It's sports/romance. And I guess, what does it say? It doesn't really say its genre, actually. Okay, so it says romance, comedy, sports, and melodrama. That's correct, I suppose. I mean, because honestly, that's what I was gonna say. I was like to myself, yeah. Chandler's is not cast as a rom-com. It's pretty funny. Like, it's pretty funny, especially like I don't know, especially when Patrick comes to Tashi and he's like, oh yeah, I want you to be my coach. And then she just slaps him, right? That was funny. It was like, what the hell? It was like, why would he come to her for her to be his coach? And then especially, why would he ask her to be his coach after their history? Do you know what I mean? That would not be what you're doing. And you would never want to coach somebody that you were kind of in a relationship with anyways. How weird would that be? It would be so inappropriate and so unprofessional. You wouldn't be able to do it, basically. So yeah. And it's funny because I remember I was also, when I was researching for this episode or when I was doing my TikTok video, I was basically like, it's so interesting that it says that really it's clear by the end of the film that it's Art who wins the match, even though I never really looked at it that way. Like, I never really looked at it that way, that it was Art who won. But I guess we do know that Patrick was the one. I mean, Tashi asked Patrick to throw the game, so we did know that anyway. But I felt like the way when I went to see Challenges in the cinema, the ending did feel super like, it did feel super abrupt. Like, the film was immediately over after you see Art do the jumping thing and he's got the racket, and then it's just Finn done. And you're just sitting there like, wow, that's it? Like, you know what I mean? You're just doing that. You're like, oh my gosh, that's the end. And I didn't expect for it to be over like that anyways. It was very, very quick. I completely also then just forgot what my point was going to be. But the show must go on. I think the funny thing is that probably because of the drink, it's like, now I've completely forgotten most of my points, but it doesn't matter. This is actually supposed to be chaos-filled. Like, it's supposed to be chaos-filled, chaotic, and that's really what it's supposed to be, basically. But anyways, the fact of the matter is, I guess I was also touching on the fact that although this is a love triangle, yeah, it's like, it feels like anyway that the men involved are also in love with each other. And you think of the way, because it's like the way that they are very competitive with one another, that it's like they that's like they're almost flirting with each other in a very weird way. Right, so it basically says it follows a love triangle between an injured tennis star turned coach, her low circuit tennis player ex-boyfriend, and her tennis champion husband across 13 years of their relationship, culminating in the match between her ex-boyfriend and husband on the ATP Challenger Tour. I remember when, oh my gosh, hold on a second. I remember when I wrote an article about challenges. I guess I probably wrote that when I watched the film for the first time, and I will go to it now because it'll be interesting to find it. But yeah, I think my article was mainly about, right, this is the point, actually, I think this is the thing that I just remembered. I wanted to talk about the fact of who it is that Tashi loved the most, right? And I think obviously we know that it's clear to us that it was Patrick. I mean, yes, it was Patrick. Of course, Art was the better guy for her, because that's the argument I was saying in my video. I was talking about how love triangles always, like, the whole premise of them is the fact that they put these two men in our faces, and it's a thing where it's like we weigh them up and we say which one is better, right? I was saying how I would never have been drawn to Patrick. I do think, like, I think someone did a Patrick edit. I saw Patrick edit on TikTok today that was with the song Norman Rockwell, and I was like, yeah, that's actually Patrick. Like, man child. I said, yeah. Why does he throw fits and he throws like his toys out of the pram? He's such a baby girl almost. It's like, what's going on? Like, it's the way that, like, I don't know. It's the way that I guess Tashi chooses Art, but she doesn't. It feels like she doesn't necessarily choose him, because obviously she still kind of, even afterwards. That's the funny thing. Like, they show us the flashback of then the beginning of their, what, I don't know, chaotic relationship, right? All three of them. And then they show us the present day. It's a thing where it's like she's chose Art, but she hasn't really chose him. I think back to my article, the main thing I was talking about, my article was titled, see, I wrote this a year ago on November 4th. So it was titled, Did Tashi Love Art? Oh, drink. This game's gonna get boring. I'm gonna stop sipping. But yeah, did Tashi love Art? Or did she love the way she could control him, basically? And this is the thing. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't know, like, this is the thing, like, Tashi is such a complicated character. I even write about, that's what's in this article, basically. I talk about how I feel like Tashi's such a complex character, and everyone was talking about, I guess, after the film came out, that they hated the kind of, like, way that Tashi was, and they put her up to be this kind of villain. And I guess that's mainly what they were also being asked in interviews. They were like, oh, who's the villain in this story? And it's like, it's generally all three of them. And I don't feel like it should be a thing where they want to just point fingers at the woman anyways. And I guess they sometimes mainly always do. I feel like sometimes, like, love triangles sometimes will have that angle to them, that it's like, oh, it's just the woman, like, balancing up these two people on a platter, and that's what they make it seem like, even though it's not like she asked for them to be drawn to her. Do you get it? Even though we know that Tashi had enjoyment in that, basically. She did. This is what I mean. I'm not saying Tashi's a good person, because she's not. But she's also, like, this is the thing, because she's not flawed. And we don't want characters like that. Do you know what I mean? Characters who just seem amazingly perfect. She's not that. I mean, her whole thing is that she was at the peak of her fame, and then the whole thing is that she was brought down by that. And so it was a thing where she became a coach, and then she married Art to still be involved in that world, right? No matter what it was. And I feel like when I put it all together, like the film, I was like, I know that Tashi just married Art just in order to have a way to keep a control on like on the control of her love for tennis. Like, it was a thing like that. That's why I guess I think to myself, when she sees that Art wins at the end and she's like, come on, like, she yells from her seat, where, like, the only reason she's that is because she saw that win as a win for herself. Like, it wasn't just Art's win, it was also her win. Like, it was something that she wished she could have done, but of course she couldn't, because she's retired. And it was a thing where she couldn't go back to tennis. And I know that she was very upset about that. You could see that. You could see that she was very upset about that. But anyways, I think, what was I was saying? Yeah, because I said I think when films center three different characters, like you pull away the layers of each one of them because they're all so different. And I do think the connection that draws all three of them, though, is tennis, of course, and being in touch with tennis and what it means to you. And then it makes me think about when Art and Patrick see Tashi play the first time, and they are memorized by the way she plays, the way she moves with the racket. And personally, one thing I identified in the way that Tashi plays was her desire, which makes her fall from success so great, and probably what makes so great of a character to zoom in on. Oh, I needed to have a sip again. But I saw Luca Guardino talking about desire. Obviously, he was talking about how that's a theme in all of his films. And I think, oh my gosh, sidebar on that, I'm supposed to be doing my Luca Guardino director series episode, but I haven't gone around to doing that. I feel like with Luca, there's so much of his films, to unpack. Or it's in, I guess it was still in process, but I haven't like picked it up in a very long time. I think it's because I then started doing Tim Burton, so I haven't done it. And then it's supposed to be Wes after that as well. And then I suppose then it'll have to be Luca finally when we get there. It's just sometimes I have so many things lined up that I forget like which one that I need to do. But yeah, so exactly, they all were what's it called? We're doing their actions by acting on desire, okay? So Tashi was desiring to be an amazing winner. That's why basically I said that Art's win was basically also her win. And then what's it called? And that obviously Patrick and Art both desire Tashi, and they both desire to be great tennis players. And then I guess even when Patrick asks her to be his coach, he knows that he needs her in order to be great. Like I also said that in my video as well. Like they needed her as a way for their match to be so great and the stakes to be so high. She was their pushing force, and the match probably wouldn't have been as great as it was because it felt like she was some kind of, like I guess even in the flashbacks before their present day match, it's a thing where it seems like competing in what's it called, for her efforts was a way for them to be more motivated, and it was a thing where then they were playing their all because she was at the center of it. So yeah. Bit which I just got on in my article is that I guess you'd say, it says, I heard people say they thought it was Art, they thought it was Patrick, and of course I thought it was Tashi. This was the bit that I got to, which I just mentioned in this episode about who the villain was. And I guess you'd say Tashi because how it feels like she wanted to hear both of them, but I'd debate it and say that both of the men willingly came to her, which says something way more than we think it does. They both knew they needed a mentor in their lives, and they weren't as good as she was, which is why I think why they were so glued to her. She also, remember, in the scene where they go to meet her, she's the one that explains to them the whole relationship that happens in tennis and like what it means to play tennis. They were both just like playing about basically before they met her. They were just playing about and they didn't really understand what tennis really means. And I think this is what I put in my article as well. So I also think about this conversation between Tashi and Patrick. You don't know what tennis is. And then Patrick says, what is it? And Tashi says, it's a relationship. And then Patrick say, is that what you and Anna Miller had today? And Tashi says, it is actually. For about 15 seconds there, we were actually playing tennis and we understood each other completely. So did everyone watching. It's like we were in love. We didn't exist. We went somewhere really beautiful together. And exactly, she just spoke about basically the concept of tennis and playing tennis, and it's like it's not even just a game. It's like there's so many different layers caught up in it. I guess that's why Patrick and Art had that what's it called? They had that way of communicating through their serves as a way that, like, it's not just a game. There's so many things on the line in that game, and it's just invisible. It's just invisible to the eye, but it's obviously very it's very current, I mean, and right in your face. So anyways, that's why I think Patrick and Art wouldn't have been as far as they were without Tashi's help. Obviously, that's what I said. This conversation proves that entirely, as Tashi breaks down the relationship between two people in tennis. This also makes me think about the fact that Art and Patrick knew each other's serves because they played with each other for so long, so they learned each other's tells and knew how each other played just in a 15-minute something game. I also just saw a Into the Woods challenges edit, and I was like, with the song Agony, and I was like, wow. As I even said, like, I thought when I said this, I think I was talking about editors today. I thought what it was in relation to, but I was saying how edits always just seem to eat all of the time, and especially how Agony and challenges seems to work so well, because yeah, it seems to work so well. It's like, I must have her, and it's like they're both. But the thing is, what's funny, of course, we know with the contents of Into the Woods, it's like they were talking about two different women. So that was the thing. They were talking about two different women, but like, obviously, I feel like the lines still work, because it's like, oh, I must have her, and it's like, it's Patrick and Art. They both want Tashi, of course. The subject of where actually I wanted to get to, obviously the crux, but let's talk about Art and Tashi's relationship as a whole. Oh, sip. I do think that after watching it, reassessing it in my head a million times, Tashi and Patrick would have ended up together. I do think the only reason why they couldn't work as a whole is because Tashi couldn't bend him to her will, but she could with Art, which in a way is probably why she could cheat on him as many times as she did, and him know about it, with her telling him in his heart he did know it, especially the scene where he came to look for Tashi in the past. Oh, that's another sip. In the past, because he could have sworn he saw her and Patrick together, and they disappear, which speaks volumes to us and him. I even think about another scene in their whole relationship when Tashi gambles their marriage on the outcome of the match, which I also think signifies the relationship and Tashi's love. Oh, another sip. I feel like, no, using Tashi's name was actually the wrong mistake. For Art, because to gamble a marriage over a game means that Tashi was in fact willing to leave him if he lost. But even now, with the title of this article, I'm not even sure if Tashi loved Art. Exactly. This is the thing. It's so funny. I always do this, actually. When I'm writing articles, it's like I go in the process of saying, oh my God, this is what I'm writing. I know what I'm writing. But then in the process of probably tearing myself apart and in arguing something, I'm like, actually, I don't know how much of that is true. I guess it makes me think of even my previous episode, which was sub versus dub, and I was like, does it matter? And in the end, like, sub versus dub doesn't matter. Like, that's the answer. That is actually the answer. It doesn't actually matter, and you can watch it in whatever you want. And the thing is that yeah, I'm not sure that Tashi loved Art, because as I was saying even in the beginning of this, was that yeah, I think her love for tennis outweighed her love for Art anyways. Like, it was her true love. If she could have married tennis, she would have. But instead, she chose to marry Art, who could be a vessel for her. The thing is, and I think what I was also saying in my video today as well, she couldn't have picked Patrick, even though I guess maybe she had stronger feelings for him, but she couldn't have picked him because she couldn't depend on him, basically. And I think what I already mentioned in my article, she couldn't bend him to her will and that was why it wasn't ever really going to work. Okay, I guess I found a bit where I was looking for in my article. Is that in some moments in the entirety of the film, I think she did, but as a whole, I don't think she was in love with him, which is always the difference and a key factor in a relationship. A relationship always has to have two main things, which are being in love with the person and honesty. Tashi didn't seem to show both of those things. She was in fact dishonest and didn't seem to show her love for art. I think from an outside perspective, it can look like Tashi was with art because he was in the tennis world, which he had so much love for, which maybe the answer is in fact Tashi didn't love art, she loved tennis, and the fact that art was playing it but not the man itself. I think it boils down to the sport than Tashi's relationship with the two men. She'd fallen out of love with her true love because she could no longer play. So she had it in her life the only way she knew she could. And that's how I actually ended the article. But it's true. Everything that I just reflected on is actually correct. Because it's true. Her thing of being in love with art, I don't really know. And it's crazy because I guess, yeah, you have that scene, the one that I mentioned about when she's saying, I don't want to be, I forget. Is that in present? I feel like, doesn't she say it in present day and she also says it? She says it in present day and she also says it in the past. I think she was saying, I don't want to be a home wrecker or whatever this was. And then you see her lean back and do that devious smile when she sees that they're kissing and she's like, that's great. And then they both turn to look at her like, but you knew that we were kissing and you just let us kiss. But it was the thing that's why I was like, if Tashi wasn't involved, what would their relationship have been like? What would have been their future as well? Would it, I don't think, it's not like, oh my God, would they have been together? They probably wouldn't have been together. But it's like, it would have been a complete different story. A complete different storyline. And it would have gone way differently. But like, I don't know. That's also interesting. With what I was saying. And I feel like, the whole love thing is just like, I guess when we think about love triangles and the fact that if you are balancing two people at once, is it a thing that like, do you love one of them or both of them? I remember the person who we think of when we think of, love triangle queen really is Catherine. She, from Vampire Diaries, she would say, what was it? She was like, yes, love both of them because she was like, I did. She would say it as though it was so nonchalant about it, as if, okay, if you love both of them, it's really not a problem if you do that, and it's actually quite normal, even though of course it isn't. But I also think that Tashi can probably take from that perspective as well. I think of her also loving both, and I think that's why she gets villainized in that way anyways. So yeah, and I feel like, of course, that's why Catherine gets villainized too. Like the whole factor of the fact that she had Stefan and Damon, she had them both at the same time, but it was like she was also, what was it? She had them both at the same time. She was grappling both of them. But there was all these different things about Catherine that, like, she wasn't actually an evil character. This is the thing. And that can relate to Tashi as well. Because Tashi was not a bad character. All she wanted was a dream to be a great tennis player. And she couldn't fulfill that. And so she sought other ways. Do you know what I mean? And that's why she was grappling people at once and all this type of things. And like she was in loads of different love triangles. I think what I said about Catherine, which I'm doing on my rewatch, is that she was not grappling just Stefan and Damon, but also Klaus and Elijah. We said she actually had like so many going on. I don't know what that was about, but that was just like her way of doing things. And I think for me, I guess with that confirmed to me about Tashi was, the fact of that she was willing to bet her own marriage. Was like, of course, if she's willing to bet her own marriage, that must mean it doesn't mean much to her. And then, oh my gosh, it's the scene where Art gives her puppy dog eyes, and we're like, yeah, that guy, he's a yearner. He's a confirmed yearner, and we know it. The fact of the way that he's looking at her, the way that you can tell he'd do anything for her. And the fact of the matter is, I guess, I don't know if he was shocked by her and Patrick's affair, but he probably wasn't. Like, this is the thing. I also said in my article, of course, that she was able to bend Art to her will. He was so willing because obviously, like I said, he's a yearner. They are like that. Do you know what I mean? They're more easily used and discarded, and they're more able to be bended at somebody else's will. But Patrick, he had this whole idea of him, like, I don't know, asserting dominance, and it was a thing that, like, Tashi had to be in control, otherwise it wasn't going to work. And that's the thing, you could see who wears the pants in that relationship. Like, it was Tashi wore the pants 10 times out of 10, and he didn't. But he was happy to. He was happy to not wear the pants, though. That's the funny thing. He was not upset at that. He was completely fine with it because he was so down bad for her. Okay? This is the thing. I think Patrick more so wanted Tashi, yes, to be in a competition with Art. That's my thing. Because that's what he's summed up as. Like, Patrick seems like that type of character. They kind of just want to be about the game and what the game is. And the fact of the matter is, like, yeah, I can get this girl, but, like, not that I want to keep her. I just want to be able to say that I got her. Like, I just want to be able to say and tell people that I was able to get her, but not that I really want her, though. Do you know what I mean? This is the thing. And then I guess that's also why they wouldn't have worked. Because the fact of the matter is that I swear the challenges thing said, yeah, hold on. It said Tashi, and it said, hold on a moment. Of course. See, exactly. I thought for a moment, like, I guess probably it's the drink play. It's the drink whispering to me. But I was like, I thought it was 3 years, but obviously it was 13. They were together for 13 years. And she would have only been able, it just says so much. The fact of how long they were together says so much, because they were caught up in this love triangle of some sorts. And do you know what I mean? They were caught up in it. And it's like, do you know what I mean? She only could have been able to be married to Art for that amount of time. She couldn't have been able to be married to Patrick. He also seems like, Patrick also seems, what's the word? He seems non-committal. And like I said, he's just one of those, like, boasters, big egos type people. Do you know what I mean? They want to just say that I did it, but they don't want to, sign their name on the dotted line or anything. They don't want to do that. My favorite, okay, I just found this article. This is my favorite kind of, what's it called? Yeah, my favorite website. This is Screen Rant. I love Screen Rant. That says, does Tashi love Art or Patrick? Do you know what I mean? I found this article and I needed it. I love it when I find pieces and stuff that actually help me to do these, because it's quite helpful. Of course, I have my own thoughts and commentary, as I would do as somebody who does commentary, but it's like, to see stuff also that helps is also helpful. Like, I think I'm also waiting to watch a video that's going to help me for my feedback episode, but obviously, aside from that, I like that. So, what's it called? The 2024 sports drama shifts back and forth in time when the three characters first meet each other in 2006 to the present day in 2019, when Patrick and Art are facing off in a tennis match after many years. Stellar performances and nail-biting tension. Exactly. That is, I know that everyone agrees. It's like, I guess with the tennis match between Art and Patrick, that was the most nail-biting one. It was like you were on the edge of your seat, and I was so glued. And I was doing that thing, when you go and watch a tennis match and your head is moving left, right, left, right, left, right, and you're like, oh my gosh, who's going to get the match point? Like, you know what I mean? It was like that. I felt like I was, what do they call those people? I guess the people who, dictate who like do the in out thing. I forget who they are, but like as in I felt like I was somebody like that watching this tennis match. Like I could say who won. But anyway, the film centers on Tashi, a rising tennis champion turned coach who molds her husband R into an elite athlete. Exactly. This is what I said. And keyword here is molds. Keyword here is mold. She molds him. And that's exactly what I said. I said she couldn't mold Patrick because he wouldn't let her. He wouldn't let her. He's not the type to be molded. And I think he even told her that. I remember when, I think it's the scene on where, hold on a moment, where they're both in like Jimmy clothes, or Tashi's got her hair in those braids. And then, they're engaging in relations, and then he's like, oh, I won't be your toy or your puppet or whatever. He basically says that, and he obviously tells her that that's not gonna happen. But the fact of the matter is that I guess Patrick even knew that too. Patrick knew that Art was the one who could, the one that could be molded, basically. And he's so right. I just mean, he's so right. Of course he is. But anyways, what's it called? Yeah, however, when Patrick, her ex-boyfriend, and Art's ex-friend reimagines and threatens Art's success, Tashi finds herself succumbing to the mounting pressure. The success of challenges hinges on the cast's chemistry with each other, as the love triangle is the central to the film's conflict. Each time challenges cuts back in time, newer and higher stakes for Patrick and Art's match in the present. The film is as much about tennis as it is about love, friendship, and personal glory. Literally, personal glory, which was what Luca was saying about desire. So, why Tashi married Art instead of Patrick? Tashi saw the opportunity to live vicariously through Art's success in tennis. That's exactly what I said, right? Exactly. You guys listening to me actually say, yes, I'm right. Much like a tennis rally itself, Tashi pings pongs between Art and Patrick throughout the film. Nice. This article is good, and of course Screen Rant would be that great with an article like this. After making out with both of them on the night they first met, Tashi initially chooses which of them to date based on who wins the tennis game the following day. Right, exactly. But this is what I said about the fact that she motivates both of them. She needed to be. She was the catalyst. She said, if you guys don't do well, then this isn't going to work. When Patrick wins, he and Tashi date while she's at Stanford until she irreversibly injures her knee one day and Patrick isn't there for her. Art is, exactly. However, this only results in her ending things with Patrick and not getting together with Art. It's also not the real reason she leaves Patrick. Fair. They're saying that's not why she does. Because I obviously said in this episode that I felt like it was. Because, I don't know. As I said, the fact about how she can depend on Art, but she can't depend on Patrick. So I feel like, I don't know. Maybe they're also right about that point. But while Tashi is playing college tennis at Stanford, Patrick is playing professionally. Just before her match, however, they fight because he wants to talk about Art while all she wants to talk about is tennis. Patrick is pontificating about how Art is trying to break them up and manipulate their relationship, but Tashi is single-mindedly concerned with Patrick's success in his tennis career. The fist fight is the real reason Tashi ends up overexerting in her match out of frustration, leading to her tragic injury and ending her relationship with Patrick. Fair. Ultimately, the challenger's love triangle set up such that Patrick loves Art loves Tashi, and Tashi loves neither. Wow, Shoni loves tennis and winning. Yep. Boom, mind blown. Tashi then does not get with Art until a few years later, when the two men meet at a diner, exactly, and now since his career is going well, Tashi sees in Art the potential to excel at tennis and for her to live vicariously through his success, exactly. So when Art invites her to coach him, she agrees and even gets together with him and eventually marries him. Ultimately, that's the quote I just read. So why Tashi sleeps with Patrick while in a relationship with Art? Exactly. The reason must be seen to love her Right. Through the lens of her love for tennis. Again. Only at the end of challenges during the climatic match between Patrick and Art does the film reveal that Tashi slept with Patrick the night before. This new information immediately elevates the already high stakes of the game. However, that's not all that happened between Tashi and Patrick that night. Importantly, she asks him to deliberately lose to Art as she views this match as an opportunity to resurrect Art's dwindling morale and confidence in his tennis career. For her, if he wins this match, he can qualify for the US Open and won't retire as a failure. The reason Tashi sleeps with Patrick thus has to be seen through the lens of her obsession with tennis, as the love triangle of challenges is largely a vessel to explore Tashi's ambition and love for the sport. Exactly. I guess that's probably why also, again, they always villainize Tashi, just because they see it as a way that she's just looking at it through a kind of success and greed lens. But, so what? Like, she just wants to win. Is that so bad? While the film doesn't reveal exactly why Tashi sleeps with Patrick, it could have been for several reasons. With Art's withering conviction in his tennis career, Tashi's probably less attracted to him now. True. She could also be more attracted to Patrick, as she believed he was actually more likely to beat Art. Right. Alternately, Tashi could have felt that sleeping with Patrick would appease him, making him more likely to give her what she wanted and lose to Art. Right. No, exactly. I mean, she does obviously ask him to throw the match just because because she knew he would win. Anyways. So that's also another thing actually that's quite interesting. That makes it seem like she doesn't want... Yeah, she didn't want to leave Art in the first place. She just wanted to boost him. Do you know what I mean? I guess she didn't want to really necessarily leave her family. Fair. Oh, then it says, or maybe she was sowing the seeds to leave Art once he retired so she could then coach Patrick. That's interesting. This is making me... I'm really thinking about this right now. Tashi sees tennis as the ultimate relationship, which forms the basis through which she approaches her actual relationship with these two men. I already just read the quote. And does Tashi really hate Art like Patrick suggests? Interesting. Hate him. I feel like hate's a strong word though. She resents Art's low self-esteem and dwindling ambition. Tashi likely does not hate Art as Patrick suggests, but she resents his low self-esteem and endeavoring drive to excel at tennis. The whole reason she chose to marry Art hinged on his success as a tennis player and her ability to be a part of that success. Now Art wanting to give that up for mundane domesticity makes her feel betrayed and disappointed. Tashi feels repulsed by Art's self-doubt and weakening ambition. She finds it pathetic and has no interest in living a regular domestic life like Art increasingly does. True. More than hating Art, Tashi deeply desires him to succeed, take control of his career, and defeat Patrick. As a stepping stone to qualifying for the US Open, Patrick suggests that Tashi hates Art because he might be projecting his insecurities about how Tashi has viewed him in the past. Patrick, too, might have speculated on many reasons why Tashi had left him and chosen to marry Art over him. His suggestion that she hates Art might be a reflection of his own ruminations about his severed relationship with her and Art. Okay, first of all, I don't understand that last bit though, but hey ho. And then are Patrick and Art in love with each other? This is a good one because they are. This is a good headline because I said, yeah, they are. Because I said that in my video earlier today as well. I said they're definitely in love with each other. They are. I said the way that their banter came off as philanter and then they were all up in each other's face. And we were like, even aside from when they kissed each other, when Tashi asked them to, they were still too close. Especially when Patrick gives Art the churro. I said, why did you bite it like that? It's so sensual, so weird. But anyways, another consistent thread through challenges is Patrick and Art's homoerotic relationship. Yes, homoerotic. In many ways, the film is more of a love story between Tashi and Tennis on one hand and Patrick and Art on the other, rather than the love triangle it appears to be. Right. Yes, exactly. No, exactly. Sorry. That line there made me it had a, like when you have a light bulb above your head, that kind of made it turn on. I was like, wait, yes, it is a love story between Tashi and Tennis and then Patrick and Art. Exactly. And I guess, yeah, that's why she classed it as it being as being a home wrecker, because she saw it as a thing that, Patrick and Art were actually together. They just weren't in a literal sense, but they were practically together. In this sense, it is a complex portrait of ambition, desire, and masculinity. While Patrick may be in love with Art, Art is likely not in love with Patrick, as Art has always been besotted by Tashi, her beauty, and unparalleled talent at tennis. This is why Patrick wants to reach out to Art, reconnect, and bond over competitive tennis like they did back in the day. In contrast, Art is largely concerned with maintaining his relationship with Tashi until the very end. He views defeating Patrick as merely a means to that end. However, when Patrick signals that he slept with Tashi the night before, it not only shows Art how easily Tashi could betray him, but also reminds Art about his camaraderie with Patrick and how thrilling, fun, and joyful their dynamic used to be. Challenges thus end with two men passionately hugging each other. Yeah, it suggests that they might now have realized how they were being used by Tashi, and she was not worth them throwing away their relationship with each other. It also cements challenges as a love story between Patrick and Art, as narratively, the film's flashbacks begin with them being double partners. The central conflict sees them fall out with each other, and the last frame shows them together. Exactly. Wow, this article's great. Then I guess, what does it say? What Tashi really wants out of her relationships, I think, and then the article's finished. Tashi only lives for the high she derives from good quality tennis and winning. From the very beginning, she chooses between the two men based on who wins, and subsequently switches between them based on their drive for the game and their likelihood of achieving immense and success. From their first night, it is evident that Tashi derives less pleasure from actually being with Patrick or Art, and more from their desire for her and subsequent competition with each other over her. And then, after her knee injury, Tashi realizes she can no longer compete at that level and achieve her dream, so she pivots to using Art and Patrick as vessels for her own ambition, seeking to live vicariously through their success. That's what she wants to get out of their relationships. She wants to see them excel at the sport and provide her with the thrill of competition, success, and prestige. The Challenges thus has a circular ending, which links back to the first night at the trio met, and Patrick and Art are competing over Tashi. I guess in the process of doing this episode, obviously I got more drunk as it went on. Duh, you can tell. But another thing is that I really do want to have a rewatch of this film. I don't know when that'll be, but I need to have a rewatch of it, because I guess the last time I would have watched it would have obviously been last year when I went to see it in the cinemas. And I need a rewatch because I think with all the stuff I've learned right now is the fact that I want to put those into practice, and I want to wrap my head around this film for the second time, because everyone knows for the, obviously as film watchers, how many times you rewatch something is more that you start to understand it, basically. I mean, you get it the first time, but I just mean you're able to see more layers, basically. And I feel like if I watch Challenges again, I'll be able to probably pick up on all the things that I just read from the Screen Rant episode anyways. I mean, it's funny because I guess in reading this article, I feel like in the Screen Rant article, I do feel like a lot of the things I said were things I already actually kind of knew as well, of course, because I did know already that Tashi was, it was mainly to do with her success, and then she liked being able to pit two men together in the efforts for her, and that was a thrill for her. And then I guess obviously also after her injury, it was more so like it was being able to find a vessel, and it was able to just, you know, I don't know, suck that vessel dry. And then I guess, as I said, remember before, Art was the best person for that. He was the best person for that. There was not going to be, like, Patrick was not going to be the guy. He was not going to be the guy. He was not the one. But anyways, I feel like you guys should also play the shot game, though, because that's what I did. But it wasn't shots, but, I mean, it was a glass of wine. But, hey, the specifics aren't relevant. I just mean, how fun would that be? Because I realized choosing Tashi's name was not a good choice, because I said her name in this episode so many times that I think it was like I was forgetting sometimes to sip, because she's obviously, like, you know, she's at the forefront of this film. So obviously you are going to repeat her quite a lot. But anyways, watch Challenges if you haven't already. Even though Challenges is great, and obviously go Challenges, and that's how I'm gonna end, because I ended it like that in my TikTok video too. See ya.